I'm JJ Barnes, and this is Jonathan McKinney.
Hello.
And you're watching another episode of Writing Advice with JJ and Jonathan. Today we're going to be talking to you about not crowbarring romance into your story.
Okay.
I think it's very tempting if you have characters that have got chemistry, characters that are single, so you've got an ensemble cast, or you've got a couple of main characters and then a few prop characters around the outside, to try and force a romantic relationship into your story when it doesn't necessarily need one, and it doesn't necessarily benefit your characters. It feels like you've just got a couple of single characters and either they're straight or they're gay, and it doesn't really matter which, but because they are people who are their sexuality would mean they could be attracted to each other, you force it so that they are attracted to each other when it doesn't necessarily need it.
Right, okay.
An example we can use, I think, and you might disagree with me on this, before I get on to, other things, right? Joey and Rachel in Friends.
Yeah, okay.
I do not feel that relationship was done for any other reason than they felt like they needed a romantic, like Chandler and Monica was settled and Phoebe and Mike was settled, and, they were like, well, we kind of need a bit of romantic tension going on here, we'll shove them together. It wasn't done because the characters would necessarily feel that way. It wasn't done because the story necessarily needed it. It was done because they felt like, they're single and they're both hot, so...
I think that the decision was probably because it would cause the most potential for drama in the group, because Ross and Rachel have their...
Yeah, but it wasn't done because it would actually...
Oh, I'm not saying it's credible, because I don't think it is credible, and I don't think it worked.
No, but, you know what? There are people who actually prefer Joey and Rachel to Ross and Rachel. That's because Ross is terrible.
I've seen that, and I think it's overstated how terrible Ross is. I think it's overstated. I think it's incredibly popular to say he's terrible, but you watch Friends, sometimes he's not good.
Fair enough, but whatever.
The
temptation, I think, is, and I think you see this a lot, I write YA fiction, and I think teen books not always, that's not fair, but very, very often, teenage books, especially books for teenage girls, will do this. They will assume that the characters need a romance. And they don't.
It might just be that the author is a bit of a romantic and wants to have that aspect in a story, because a lot of stories have romance. And a lot of people kind of need it.
Yeah, it's true.
Too.
And I think you can, I like rom-com books, I like romantic storylines, and I haven't got a problem with romance between characters, but I do have a problem when it feels it is put in purely so you can have it rather than because it makes sense.
Right. I mean, obviously we're not saying do away with romance in fiction, because that's never going to happen, but I do agree that there is, and this is really from a writing perspective, it's more analysis of the audience, that there is a growing frustration with the way that romance has been depicted for, let's say, women to read. And given that that's the case, that requires a bit of thought. When I'm watching a film or a TV show or reading a book, I absolutely don't need a romance now, but when I was young, when I was a teenager, it would have felt, for me, lacking if it didn't have some love and some of the stakes that come with being in love. Okay,
I'm going to throw one at you then that is your kind of frame of reference as an example of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Right? You know your favourite film, The Matrix?
Yes.
Trinity and Neo.
Yeah, they're badly pitted.
They are. That romance doesn't need to happen. I know it's the whole Oracle says you'll fall in love, but...
Does need to happen.
Why? Just because the Oracle... They could have taken the Oracle saying that to Trinity out, and it could have been you'd like his shoes. Yeah, something else. But they were not in that story, they were not falling in love.
I agree.
They were not falling in love. It was crammed in at the end, and we're just supposed to be like, oh, I guess those characters are into each other.
It wasn't crammed in at the end.
It was crammed in at the end.
Right at the very beginning, Cypher says to Trinity, you like watching him, don't you?
Yeah, but there's no chemistry between them.
Oh, no. I'm with you that the chemistry, but there's no chemistry in that film in the way that it's acted at all. In fact, Neo and Morpheus seem more into each other than...
That's the point. They had to, for some reason, they had to put that romance in. It didn't need it. It wasn't believable. It didn't improve the story. It weakened Trinity because she's suddenly like, ooh, I love you. When, like, she's this strong, tough woman who is showing no signs of sexually attracted to this man at all, other than being told you like watching him. But, like...
No, but you haven't watched The Matrix to make sure that what you're saying is true.
I have watched The Matrix. I've watched The Matrix loads of times.
Not to make sure that what you're saying is true. That it is there. It's just that the cast, like the actors, don't seem to fancy each other.
They don't.
The writing doesn't
suggest that they fancy
show
each other.
them being particularly compatible, apart from the fact that they're both, you know.
It's terrible. The film isn't. The film is wonderful. The film is wonderful. The need to shove a romantic relationship between those characters in is terrible.
Look, I think that the execution of the romance between Neo and Trinity is bad, but the concept of it is good, because it is how we are brought to the point where we understand that Neo is actually the one.
Okay,
it's actually really clever.
How is this for a compromise between my take, because I don't tend to write romance.
That is correct.
Ever. I've got characters occasionally fancying each other, and there's I've written a couple of teenage books and there might be a snog with a boy, but it's not the point, and it's really not the point, and I resent the idea that my characters should have boyfriends and relationships because they're teenage girls.
Who is saying that?
No, it's very, very common in YA books. It's very, very common. It feels like because they're teenage girls, there should be love interests. It's not the point of my books. But where was I going with this? Right.
This is turning into quite the discussion.
It is quite the discussion. A compromise between me, who doesn't tend to ever write romance, and you, who actually, as you say, you have used to love a romance. Now you don't need it quite as much, but you do enjoy a romantic storyline.
Yeah.
As a compromise in the middle, if you want to put a romantic storyline in your book, if you want to make it either a subplot or a key thing that is happening in your story, make it work in a way that doesn't feel crowbarred in. Put some time in. Put some effort in. Don't shove two characters together when you haven't built chemistry between them. Don't...
Jon and Daenerys.
Jon Snow and Daenerys is another one I could go off on.
Yeah, I don't get that myself.
That came out of fucking nowhere, and Daenerys is like, oh, I hope I'm worth it. What? You were just killing a bunch of people with your dragon, and now you're suddenly hoping you're worthy of... No. Right? If you want your characters to have a relationship, I accept, it's fine. I actually thought that they would end up putting Jon Snow and Daenerys together like seasons earlier. I said that to you, right? I could see that coming, but I thought they would have a little bit more respect, A, for Daenerys, and not make her some simpering wallflower for the pretty man, and B, for Jon Snow, who has been madly in love, and, you know, is saving himself and mourning the death of the woman he loved. Suddenly they're just like, you know what, you're hot, I'm hot, we're in love. No, you should respect your audience, and you should respect your characters by making a love story not just crowbarred in because it feels convenient for
So, obviously, don't skip the bit where they fall in love, like Game of Thrones did.
Wish this was wine right now. Going off on like a rant.
When Jon Snow falls in love with the red-haired woman who he married in real life, you know, nothing Jon Snow. When he falls in love with her, they show you him spending time with her. They are sort of trying to stay alive together. They show
well the together. Chemistry. They show the build-up. They show it.
Yes. They don't do any of that with Daenerys, and that is weak storytelling. So don't do that.
Don't do that.